If you're going to own a house and you want to protect that, I'd hate for your car accident to come in and have issues with your house, So that liability needs to be covered.
All right, guys, welcome back. This is Rodrigo Fonador with Asheville Real Estate News. Really excited for another episode. Today we're going to be talking about insurance, and there's so many different options when it comes to insurance, whether you're a tenant, you own the house, you're investing in a house, and so wanted to go ahead and bring somebody on the show today who could give us the ins and outs a little bit, and maybe we'll come back on and we'll go in depth on some of these, whichever one you have the most questions about, but give you an overview of what you need to be aware of, so that way when you ask questions, you know which questions to ask about. So, well, without further ado, Jared, this is Jared Bellmund with Carolina Living Insurance, and thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, really excited to have you on. I know the first time we met was actually through Instagram, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's powerful how social media connects everybody these days.
Yeah, without doubt.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the insurance business.
Yeah, I've been in the insurance business, about 6 years now. It's been a crazy road. I was a captive agent at first for just about 2 years, and I went independent, which was great because it gives the opportunity to not only have multiple carriers but different choices for my clients. You can have a client and take care of that client with whatever their needs are. So kind of what we're talking about today. What's that specific need?
The flexibility component.
Yeah, without a doubt. Because some people, are renting and they buy something. You want to be able to continue to take care of that client.
Yeah, so did you always know you were going to do insurance, or is one of those things kind of fell into?
Yeah, no, not at all. I was in the restaurant industry and moved to Asheville while still in the restaurant industry. Met my wife 10 days later, and that was the end of the restaurant industry. It took about 2 years for me to realize it, but she knew it was the end of the restaurant industry.
It was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, it was. So just had a couple friends, local friends that were like, man, you really should get into sales, get into insurance. So really got some good mentors early on, got with a company that did some amazing training and really taught me some things. And then 2 years later found a company that with Carolina Living just fit my mold a little better.
Perfect.
And so it's been a fun road.
Okay, awesome. Well, before we even get into the insurance component, where's the best place for somebody to connect with you on social media? I know you're super active on there.
Yeah.
That's obviously how we connected.
Yeah, /JM Bellmund or at Jared Bellmund. I mean, Instagram, Facebook.
Everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
I think you're super active on all of the channels.
If you can't find me, it's your problem. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you can find me out there. Yeah.
Awesome. So today we want to talk about insurance, and kind of as I said at the intro, depending if you're renting a house, if you're owning a house, if it's an investment property, I feel like there's 100 different options for each of those, and maybe you give us your overview on what you think we need to know, just an overall perspective.
I would say basically the first thing you need to do is know what you're doing with the house. So if it's going to be your primary residence, we know we can put you in an HO2, HO3 policy, cover you with your family that way. But if you're renting and going to be a landlord, or if you're going to have a vacant and renovate for a little while, there's so many different options that you can go into, and it's really important to sit down with an advisor and just explain what you're going to use it for, so that your agent can put you in a policy that's going to protect your asset the right way. Because you don't want to have a vacant home that is going to be filled and rented later, but you have a bunch of construction equipment in it and you have it under a primary residence coverage. The insurance company's not going to like that when a claim happens.
They even respond to it, right?
Yeah, right. And so just having those options and knowing what that need is, assessing what needs to be protected and protecting it the right way. And then the second thing is making sure that, if it is a low value, big renovation, you might just need a builder's risk policy that isn't really a homeowner's policy. It just kind of covers you while you're fixing up the property. It may cost a little more initially, but it's going to protect you if something happens. Plus, it protects the construction equipment, stuff transporting.
Which is, depending what stage you are, could be more expensive.
Could be
a lot more value than the actual house.
In the equipment.
Withstanding, yeah. So, okay, that's good to know. So let's maybe break these down a little bit one by one. So, if I'm a renter, well, actually I am. I'm a big believer in renting. But so you're renting a house. Outside of renter's insurance, is there anything else to be aware of, or why is renter's insurance important?
Yeah, renter's insurance is going to cover a big bulk of what you need protected. It's going to cover your property, your stuff, and it's going to cover your liability.
Okay.
And so that liability is going to depend on how many people living there, how big the property is, do you have people over or not. So a house you're going to want more liability insurance. An apartment where the apartment complex is going to cover the grounds, or a condo where they're going to cover the grounds. You could probably discuss what limits of liability you need. But your stuff, you just need to take inventory of it to know how much.
Have an idea of how much coverage you need.
How much stuff you have.
Right.
And then it's replacement cost. So you don't want to look at, that coffee pot is 10 years old. It's only, I can only get $5 for it. We want to know.
What would it cost you to replace it today?
Yeah.
Coffee pots, that can be expensive.
They could be nowadays. Yeah.
One of the things I've always been curious about, and so kind of just personally interested. So what happens if there's something that makes the house uninhabitable that's due to the landlord's negligence? Can I have my hotel costs covered through my renter's insurance?
Can I call an underwriter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the moving pieces to that?
Yeah. So as a landlord.
As a tenant perspective.
Okay. So as a tenant. Your landlord should have the coverage. So this is questions you should ask when you move into a house. What kind of coverage does the landlord have on that property? Because there's responsibilities that he has to protect you. So what specifically was the...
So let's give 2 examples. Let's say house burns down.
Okay. So the house should be insured by the owner of the house, the landlord.
Correct.
So it would be his insurance that
would cover my hotel costs?
Should be. Yeah.
In theory.
In theory.
So my renter's insurance would not.
It could.
It could.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the policy.
Depends on the policy.
So it depends.
Yeah. Everything just depends on insurance.
Right.
And it's
in theory, though, if you're looking at do most rental, if I'm going to go get...
So there should be a loss of use...
provision.
Right. So you as a renter should make sure that you have a loss of use so you can get into a hotel while your house...
And then that would cover... Well, I always find that with insurance or things of this nature, I kind of want to just focus on what I can control.
Right.
Just because so many variables exist out there. I don't know what the landlord may or may not be insured for, if he's even paying his policy premiums, et cetera.
Yeah, you definitely want to talk to your advisor and make sure that you're protected no matter what.
Right.
So you may not have that place to live in, but you can live somewhere.
Renter's insurance, in my experience, conversations I've had aren't exactly super pricey.
No.
Is their general range what they fall into?
$125. That's
a month or just
a year.
Depends? A year.
A year, yeah.
So that's your give or take.
That's your atypical. Someone calls me. They're renting an apartment. They have $25,000 worth of stuff, and they want $100,000 of liability coverage. I can tell you, it's going to be around $125. Now, credit comes into effect. If you want to increase how much property you have, if you want to increase your liability, it's going to change. But I tell people, I have companies that I can write $125. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and
that's a great starting point, though.
Yeah, it is. So. That's good to know that you could probably
thinking about it. $10 a month.
Oh yeah.
I
would say between $10 and $20 a month, you should be able to cover what you have. When I rented a house, I think our policy was around $250, $280.
Well, if you're in the business, you probably had a little bit more.
Well, I was well covered. So,
yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Cool. Well, let's move into, let's say I'm a landlord, right? And so on the flip side of this whole conversation, what sort of recommendations or questions should I be asking of my insurance person?
So of course you want to cover the same thing, the property and the liability, if something happens to the property or on the premises. Of course, if you require your tenant to have liability insurance, you can kind of lower your liability there. Okay. I still advise usually cover some liability because you don't know, is it your fault it happened and not your tenant's fault?
It comes back to the whole thing, control you can control, right?
Control what you control. The biggest thing I talk to landlords about is what their protections are. So they take on a different risk with evictions or tenants that want to fight things. Plus, if the house burns down and they can't rent it, they're losing rental. So there's coverages that we can put in place that assist in those losses.
Okay.
So protect that loss of investment, protect, if evictions and stuff like that happen, there could be some lawsuits that we want to make sure your liabilities are covered there.
Gotcha. And so I own my house. Now what? This is probably the one that has the most variables.
It's
the most relevant, right?
So you own your house and you're living in it yourself. Your
primary use.
Yeah. Simple HO3 policy or HE7 policy, which I love to write. HE7 is a higher value home.
Okay.
Added protections, kind of protect. It's a great value to put yourself in. Most companies put it about $250,000 and above.
Okay.
You can get that HE7 coverage.
Well, that's pretty. That's not going to be.
That's pretty commonplace. Yeah, especially. Yeah, and that's replacement cost, not value.
Okay.
So.
And so if you got the, typical homeowners insurance, what are the biggest things you typically write against, or that you're?
Yeah, so of course you're going to start with the dwelling. You want to make sure you look at replacement costs, not what it's sold for, especially in this market.
Yeah.
Who knows? But you want to make sure that it can be rebuilt exactly like it was before. And then there's always your outbuildings. Your loss of use. If it does burn down, you can't live there. You need to go somewhere. Or even, I've had situations where someone had sewage issues underneath their house. Had to have a restoration company come in and take out.
Really?
Yes, bad sewage. And
that'd not be fun.
They didn't want to stay in their house.
Yeah.
So they were able to stay in a hotel for 3 or 4 days while that restoration took it all out, put the lime down. They weren't even, the restoration company wasn't in their house. It was just all underneath in the crawl space. But that allowed the family to not be there, not have to deal with the smell. Yeah. So it's not just complete loss. It's any kind of claims that you have it could be used where it's uninhabitable. And then we always want to specifically look at liabilities. I always push high liability limits. It's a minimal cost, so people are like, "Oh, just lower that down, save me $1 or $2," and I'm like, you're talking $1 a month for twice the liability coverage. And and I push umbrella. If you're going to own a house and you want to protect that, I'd hate for your car accident to come in and have issues with your house. So that liability needs to be covered, and that covers not just if you were at fault, but if someone thinks you're at fault and they want to sue you for it.
So maybe if somebody's not familiar with an umbrella insurance, with a 30-second explanation of what that is.
Yeah, it's easy. Your house and your auto would be under additional coverage, so you just get an increase of liability. Most people take $1 million to $2 million. I've seen policies up to $5 million. But it just adds additional liability above and beyond the limits of your homeowners or auto policy.
And which policy gets tapped into first?
The home will be tapped in first, yeah. And then once that meets its limit,
then this will supplement.
Yep.
Okay,
that's correct.
And so let's say now doing an investment property, either let's say like new construction and or like a typical fix and flip renovation. What do I need to be aware about then, and what type of policy am I
if the house is uninhabitable. You need to make sure it's either insured vacant if you're not currently doing any fixing or restoration. If you are working and doing some building or construction, I would recommend a builder's risk policy. It protects a lot more. So it protects the house. So we protect it for the value, and usually we look at what it's going to be. So that as you build it, it's protected. But that also takes into construction equipment, your wood and materials on site. And like I said earlier, it takes in if you're traveling with stuff. So you have a pickup truck and a trailer filled with wood and stuff and materials, it'll cover that too.
Wow.
So so it's definitely the best coverage for a flip or a restorated home.
That makes sense. So I know like if you're on the ocean, you have to deal with like hurricane insurance or whatever. Are there anything that are like mountain specific things that we need? Like I know there's some floodplains here.
There are, especially
that's been not exactly awesome.
Especially near the French Broad. The 100-year floodplain there is it moves the Mills River area, especially even up here in Asheville. There's some places. So you got to be careful of that, and there's a risk. It wasn't 3-4 years ago we had pretty heavy rains all summer. Rivers, even creeks were rising up pretty high. So you don't. A typical homeowner's policy is not going to cover a creek rising and getting in your basement. So that flood policy could save you thousands of dollars. And they're costly at times, but some companies, especially with the mountain policies, are working with us a little better to make sure that the price isn't through the roof, like it is down at the beach.
So you can actually do it.
And then I see a lot of earthquake insurance.
Really?
There are a few fault lines.
That's a surprise to me.
I'm trying to think. A lot up by Haywood Road through South Buncombe. Seen a couple through there. But people.
And are those individuals wanting that, or is it their lenders that are requiring it?
No, I've seen a couple requests through lenders, but usually, it's usually the individual saying, "Hey, I heard about these tremors in the mountains, and is that something?" And the biggest thing for that is, if it happens, if you're on a mountainside, and there's moving earth.
Yeah.
So if the earth is moving and it comes into your house, it's not covered by your homeowner. So you would need earthquake or flood to cover that. So you get some homes here that are on mountainsides, are definitely going to have that issue. So
that's super interesting. So have you had any like stories or about anything that'd be worth sharing about, how insurance? I think sometimes insurance for me is it's hard to really feel like it's justifiable because it's obviously
you hope you never have
scenarios. You never think about it, you don't deal with it or.
I mean, knock on wood.
Yeah.
I've not had many big claims. I mean, I've had a builder's risk claim where it was theft.
Okay.
Someone coming on and stealing a bunch of materials. So those things, it happens. That's why I tell people, man, builder's risk. You can roll the dice, but it saves you a lot.
It's happened before.
Yeah.
I had somebody swipe a whole heat pump.
Wow. Yeah. But to be honest, most of what I see is small water damage.
Okay.
Back of a refrigerator hose comes off and it's leaking for 3 days before you realize. You walking through the next room and you feel the carpet mushy. You're like, what's going on
happened?
here?
Yeah.
But those are the things that's why it's stuff you don't expect.
Right.
It's stuff you don't think about, which is why it's good to talk to an advisor. Make sure you're covered across the board for what you're doing, what your need is. Landlords, I've seen a couple of those where the liability with evictions and dealing with that process, which is not the best thing to deal with in North Carolina. It just protects the landlord. It takes care of them. Attorney's fees go up and things happen.
Those can be expensive.
Right, where you might not have done anything specifically that you should be liable for, but you want to protect yourself against even false claims and stuff like that.
Yeah, that can happen. Cool. No, well, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
If somebody wants to ask you any specific questions or, explore that conversation further, what's the best way for somebody to do that?
Social media, of course. You could hit me up, DM me, Facebook Messenger, and then Jared at CarolinaLivingINS.com.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it. Absolutely. All right, you all. Don't forget to check us out everywhere on social media. Not as many places as Jared over here, but we're on Facebook, Instagram. Go to Apple Podcast, give us a subscription, give us a rating. We'd definitely appreciate that. And don't forget to share or tag a friend in this who you think would find this helpful. And we have an email list on our website. Sign up. We're going to be doing some really cool things as spring and summer roll out. So hope to see you on there as well. Thank you all.